Good evening. My name is LaTanya Reeves, and I'm the chair of the Community Commission on Police Oversight. Before we begin, I want to offer a friendly reminder to all members, staff, and the public that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning as a further method to increase the accessibility of our proceedings to the community. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. We ask all speakers to moderate the speed and clarity of their comments. At this time, I'm going to call to order this regular meeting for Monday, March 3rd, and ask the clerk to call the roll to verify the presence of a quorum.
Commissioner Shanfield.
Present.
Commissioner Newman is absent. Commissioner Clement is absent. Commissioner Smith-Koyman.
Present.
Commissioner Bastick.
Present.
Commissioner Gurian-Sherman.
Present.
Commissioner Canaday.
Present.
Commissioner Williams-Johnson.
Present.
Commissioner Smith.
Present.
Commissioner Stewart.
Present.
Vice Chair Olson.
Present.
Chair Reeves.
Present.
There are 10 members present.
Let the record reflect we have a quorum. Commissioners, the agenda for this evening's meeting is before us. I'm not aware of any proposed amendments to the agenda, so let me ask if there's any amendments to the agenda from commissioners.
Yes, I have.
Commissioner Gurian-Sherman?
Yes, thank you. The first thing I would do is I would like to bring a motion to have all wards that have current vacancies listed.
Point of order. This is adopting the agenda, right?
Pardon me?
This is just we're adopting the agenda, right? Just a point of order.
Yes. I would like to make a motion to have all wards that have current vacancies listed in the agenda going forward, just as they are now listed in the minutes. So although I don't think it's necessary for this meeting, I would like to make a motion to make sure that wards that have vacancies are listed in the agenda.
Madam President, our system that automates the agenda will not accommodate that. I'm sorry.
Oh.
It lists by members. If there's a vacancy, it's not going to print a vacancy.
No, but could it just be simply
No.
inserted?
No, it's an automatic. It pulls automatically out of the system. So I appreciate what you're trying to do, which is why we've done that in the minutes. I cannot do that. The system is automated.
Okay.
I have a second amendment for the agenda. Just like in the January meeting, at this meeting, my notice to have an update on Allison Luciar's case has been denied. This flies in the face of the motion that was passed at the last meeting in February. Quote, Gurian-Sherman moved that an exact copy of what was sent to the City Council by the Chair and Vice Chair be shared as part of the March 3rd meeting, the CCPO meeting. And quote, you can't share something if it's not on the agenda. So I am asking, my motion is as follows. To amend the agenda to include under unfinished business an update on the status of the CCPO memo related to the killing of Allison Luciar and any other updates.
Is there a second? That motion fails. Anything else? Commissioner Gurian-Sherman?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that is so outrageous. How are we supposed to get notice to the public of what has happened in this case if it's not on the agenda? And we passed a motion that it was to be part of this meeting. It sets a precedent and an distrust. What are we hiding? Unbelievable.
I'll say to Commissioner Gurian-Sherman and to the rest of the commissioners, it is the purview of City Council to take the next steps, which they have done. That was on their agenda, and they've taken action. So I would ask the public if they have any questions or concerns about the Luciar case, and I apologize if I said that wrong, to please go to the City Council, who has purview over the next steps for the city. CCPO does not have purview over that. It has been, a motion was made for it to go to the audit committee, and the council has taken action after that. So that's the action of the City Council. That is their purview. The CCPO body does not have any jurisdiction over that any further.
The purview of this committee is to see that the motions that we passed are followed. And that is that this would be presented, what was sent to the City Council would be presented at this meeting for the commissioners to have and for the public to have.
Commissioner Olson.
The motion was not seconded, so there's no appropriate discussion at this point.
Okay.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Yes.
I I will apologize. I sent out to all members a copy of your email to the council after the last meeting, and I will attempt, while we're in public comments, to have copies printed so that that can be shared with folks. The other thing is, I would offer this update. You correctly said this is the purview of the City Council. This body recommended to the City Council that they should ask the Audit Committee to conduct an after-action report. I don't know that this body is aware. On Monday of last week, the Audit Committee appointed the new city auditor. So we have been with an interim auditor for almost a year. The new city auditor, his name is Robert Timmerman, was appointed by the Audit Committee last Monday at their meeting. And again, I've said this before, but the Audit Committee is an independent group. It says committee, but it's not a committee of the council. It is a committee of the city that was created under the city charter. And so it is independent of the city council, does not report to the city council. It has the exclusive authority to appoint and supervise the auditor. And based on this group's recommendation, the city council had forwarded through the audit to the Audit Committee a request for an after-action report involving the shooting of Davis Muturi and also the death of Allison Lucier. The request to add the death of Allison Lucier to that after-action report was literally just taken up last Monday. The Audit Committee requested the auditor to conduct both of those after-action reports, and today, sometime this afternoon, the auditor did send an update to both the Audit Committee and then copied the City Council, and I'm reading to you. This memo, this is from Robert Timmerman, the City Auditor. He says, this memo is to inform you, the Audit Committee, that the Office of the City Auditor has decided to conduct special reviews of the circumstances surrounding the events that led up to and after the October 2024 shooting of Davis Muturi, and the events leading up to and after the February 2024 death of Allison Lucier. So the auditor is preparing to take up those two after-action reviews that were requested by the City Council and directed by the Audit Committee. Until they finish the report, that is in their purview, as you pointed out. But at least to close the loop publicly, I wanted to share that information.
Thank you for that update, and thank you for making copies of the email and making them available to the public.
All right, we have agenda on the floor. Is there a motion to accept the agenda? Yeah, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been a motion and a second. I assume there's no further discussion. All right, please call the roll, Clerk Carl.
Councilmember Shanfield.
Aye.
Commissioner Newman is absent. Commissioner Clement.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith-Quayman.
Aye.
Commissioner Bastick.
Aye.
Commissioner Stewart.
Aye.
Commissioner Gurian-Sherman.
Nay.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams-Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olson.
Aye.
Chair Reeves.
Aye.
There are 10 ayes and 1 nay.
All right, thank you. We have a motion that's adopted. Next we have the acceptance of minutes from our February 3rd meeting. May I have a motion and a second to accept that set of minutes?
So moved. Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, there's one.
Commissioner Gurian-Sherman?
Yes, I have a motion to amend the minutes. It says on the February 3rd minutes, under the Allison Lucier motion, before that motion was made, it says, quote, Gurian-Sherman requested clarification regarding the memo she had drafted regarding the matter of Allison Lucier and whether or not that memo was forwarded to the City Council, end quote. My motion would be, because it is pertinent to follow up, the motion is to change that phrasing to the memo she was tasked to draft per the November 18th Lucier motion, and then the rest would remain the same.
Quick point of discussion. I think you volunteered to do that, correct? So,
No, I said I would do it, and then it became part of the motion. That's something that I had to do. If you go back and you look at the YouTube video, it makes it pretty clear that that was an obligation that I followed through on. And I should say, for the record, I didn't do it in the week that I thought it would happen, because there were some procedural things that got in the way, including getting in touch with Jana Williams, Ms. Lucier's aunt, who has been the representative from the family, to make sure that whatever it was that I put in the draft was something that she approved and authorized, since she is the family representative. So thank you for the question.
Wait, you said that you would do it. So did someone tell you to do it, or did you volunteer to do it and then it got added to a motion to then be in the agenda?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
From your explanation, you said that you would do it. So were you told by someone to do it, or did you say that you would do it and then it got added into a motion to then be applied to the agenda in minutes?
We started talking about it, the motion never really got restated, and so I said that I would do it, and then it got made part of the motion, of the actual motion. If you want, I could read that motion that was passed on November 18th.
No need, Commissioner Gray Sherman. Is there a second to her motion to change it to tasks?
Yes, and I can provide the copy to the city clerk.
Is there a second? I'm not seeing a second. That motion fails. Is there anything else in terms of the minutes? All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Shanfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Newman is absent. Commissioner Clement.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith-Coinon.
Aye.
Commissioner Bastick.
Aye.
Commissioner Stewart.
Aye.
Commissioner Gurrian Sherman.
Nay.
Commissioner Canaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olson.
Yes.
Chair Reeves.
Yes.
There are 10 ayes and 1 nay.
Thank you. The ayes have it, and the minutes have been accepted. Next, in the order of public comments, we'll open the floor to any comments from the public, giving each speaker 2 minutes to address the commission. We'll be taking speakers in the order that they've registered. If you wish to address the commission tonight and haven't already done so, you may register with the clerk at the side of the dais. If any speaker has printed materials, please give those to the city clerk. We also invite folks to submit written comments using the forms available from the city clerk to be included in the public record as an alternative to speaking at tonight's comment session. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to address the commission tonight. We have a timer to assist speakers in of their use of time. With that, our first speaker, Kim, is it Milliard? I hope I said that right. I'm sorry.
Good evening. I'm Kim Milliard. I'm here on behalf of the Racial Justice Network. Minneapolis Ordinance Chapter 172 provides the purpose of the Community Commission on Police Oversight. One of its specific powers, as you know, is to contribute to the annual performance review of the Chief of Police. The ordinance also requires an annual public hearing addressing police department policies, rules, practices, and special orders. The Commission shall determine which police department policies, rules, practices, or special orders shall be the subject of that hearing. At the annual hearing, my understanding is that the CCPO has decided to take up the police chief's performance review. My expectation is that you will open it up to comments from the public regarding our opinions on the chief's performance and whether he should be retained, fired, or have his contract not extended. If you feel that should be its own meeting, then I would request that the CCPO make a motion to hold a special meeting for the sole purpose of receiving public comments on the chief's performance. I am very concerned about this chief's wayward hiring practices, as well as his lack of leadership and accountability. When MPD fails to protect people it knows are facing specific threats, especially when those people are Black, Brown, or Indigenous. Chief O'Hara was responsible for hiring Tyler Timberlake, who came to MPD with a known history of excessive use of force against a Black man in Virginia. When that information became public, O'Hara lied profusely about what he knew at the time of hiring. We know he lied because documentation has been published to prove it. And so that stuff doesn't get broken up, I'm just going to go ahead and turn over my comments to Billie Jean, who is next.
Billie Jean Van Knight.
Yes. I'm also with the Racial Justice Network. Hello. The hiring of Tyler Timberlake is not the only poor hiring decision that Chief O'Hara must be held accountable for. In July of 2022, Lucas Bellamy, a Black man, crawled on all fours of the in the Hennepin County Jail begging for medical help. He was denied. While Bellamy could barely crawl, a sheriff deputy named Lucas Weatherspoon was seen on video turning his head, smiling, and trying to stifle laughter. Lucas Bellamy died in agony, which was determined to have been completely preventable had he been taken to a hospital. Lucas Weatherspoon is now an officer with the MPD. Chief O'Hara is well aware of his involvement in the Lucas Bellamy case, and the $3.4 million he has already cost the county, but has not reversed his disturbing hiring decision. We expect and demand that the police chief hire officers who will have more regard and care for Black lives than Tyler Timberlake and Lucas Weatherspoon have demonstrated. Chief O'Hara has also made excuses for MPD failure to protect folks like Davis Maturi, a Black man who was shot by racist white neighbor despite MPD's knowledge of the threats against him. He has also defended MPD's failure to investigate the death of Indigenous woman Allison Lucer as a murder despite 157 pages of police records documenting MPD's knowledge of her partner's domestic violence and threats to kill her. Chief O'Hara is not reversing or changing the racist culture of MPD. He is perpetrating it, and this should be weighted heavily at his performance review.
Lizzie Palmer.
Hello, my name is Lizzie Palmer. I'm with Twin Cities Coalition for Justice. At the February 3rd CCPO meeting, motion was made by Commissioner Gurry Sherman to amend the meeting to provide an update on Allison Lucer's case. We all needed to know what happened since the CCPO's unanimously passed decision and motion to add Allison's case to the auditor's after-action review of Davis Maturi. Although 5 commissioners cowardly abstained from voting, the motion still passed. Later, at the February 3rd meeting, there was no straight answer on whether a memo that was supposed to be included was sent by the chair to the City Council. Commissioner Gurry Sherman made another motion to get an exact copy of what was sent. This time, only 1 commissioner abstained and 8 voted for it. Thank you. We know what was sent. City Council members told us that the chair's short email did not include any of the memo that contained important and documented information, including about MPD's failures in Allison's case. Failing to send it deliberately kept info from the council, the auditor, and the public. LaTanya Reeves, as the chair, you have compromised your integrity and that of the entire CCPO, showing what side you are on. Police cover-up, not police accountability, not police oversight. The failure of the chair to do her job highlights the need to have true community control of the police in Minneapolis, not advisory commissions with no oversight power, which is unfortunately all we've got for public oversight, but we deserve more. For years, there's been a campaign in Minneapolis to establish a democratically elected Civilian Police Accountability Commission, CPAC for short. CPAC would enforce oversight of the budget, hiring practices, training procedures, disciplinary actions, and MPD misconduct cases. If CPAC had been established, it would have helped Allison Lucer and countless other victims of police misconduct. CPAC is a transparency and effectiveness that the CCPO is not providing.
That's right.
Next up, Alyssa Washington.
I'm Alyssa Washington with the Wrongfully Incarcerated and Over-Sentenced Families Council, Minnesota. We made sure critical information about Allison's case got to the City Council. Thank you, City Council members Wansley and Chavez and President Payne for supporting a separate independent review for Allison's case. Their motion passed unanimously to thunderous applause on February 13th, then was sent to the auditor. But last Monday, out of the blue, the audit committee decided to delay action on Allison's after-action review. It was confusing and felt like a stab in the back. We expressed our disappointment at the council's meeting last Thursday with 2 simple demands: no delay, no BCA. Despite the chair's insistence to deny info to council and auditor, we got it to them, demanded justice, and got a quick approval. Allison is being seen, and so is the CCPO. We appreciate Councilmember Wansley and President Payne speaking with us at different times to express quick approval by the auditor. What was done for Davis Maturi must be done for Allison Lucier. Chief O'Hara admits MPD failed Maturi, but he defiantly repeats MPD followed all protocols for Lucier, despite what his department's own records show. No wonder Allison's family can't trust filing a complaint with MPD. And it's no wonder why Chief O'Hara wants the notorious Bureau of Criminal Apprehension doing an investigation. We also can't trust the BCA that works against Indigenous, Black, and Brown people, whether they are victims of police abuse or falsely arrested by the police. If the BCA gets involved with Allison's case, they'll do what they've done before: cover up and absolve police. This is precisely why Chief O'Hara has asked the BCA to step in. No BCA.
No BCA!
Next up, we have, is it Bob Gonin? I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Hello, everyone. I want to speak about Zen City, with whom the city has a $500,000 contract and a connection with Allison Lucier. Nationally, law enforcement has used Zen City to monitor everything from racial justice protests, criticism of police department, and community outrage over the killing of black men. There is a disturbing pattern of police departments utilizing Zen City to monitor community reaction to the killing by white police officers of black men. This was the case in Kent County, Michigan. This was the case in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, where police had killed Dante Wright in nearby Brooklyn Center. In the wake of MPD's killing of George Floyd, the Minnesota Department of Human Rights conducted a 2-year investigation into the MPD. In June 2022, they concluded that the city of Minneapolis and MPD had engaged in a decade-long pattern of racial disparities in the use of force, traffic stops, disrespectful and racist language, and covert social media surveillance of racial justice activists. In July of 2023, the city of Minneapolis and MDHR reached a settlement agreement, including appropriation of funds, to address the root causes of these serious human rights violations. But rather than doing so, the city of Minneapolis approved its contract with Zen City the following October. All of this relates to the way in which MPD handled Allison Lucier's call for help and the lack of interest and thoroughness in investigating her death. The violence against Indigenous women is very directly connected to the violence against black people and other communities of people for whom MPD is an occupying force. Thank you.
Joe Manu. Next up, Joe Manu. Apologies if I said that wrong.
Good evening. My name is Joe Manu. I'm here to talk about the Zen City contract as well. I work and reside in Minneapolis. I was in this room earlier today when Zen City and MPD reported to the AEO committee, and I want to start off by saying nothing they shared in their report eased my mind about this Israeli tech firm contracted to survey us. My enduring questions are, why did they choose to contract with an Israeli tech company with its roots in military intelligence instead of a local company? The founder of Zen City served in Unit 8200, the elite cyber intelligence arm of the military that routinely spies on Palestinians and makes their lives miserable. Former Unit 8200 officers have gone on to develop the most intrusive spyware in the world. How are we to trust this company with our data? Why does MPD and not the community hold the back end of this survey tool and get to determine how to use it? Why and is MPD using this contract with an Israeli tech company to comply with the consent decree? Shouldn't the public have more oversight on how the consent decree is implemented? Lastly, I need to say how offensive it was to hear the Zen City lawyer brag that they employed Palestinians living in the occupied West Bank, quote, throughout the Israel war on Gaza. This is a clear attempt at washing away apartheid. Never mind that Palestinians living in the occupied West Bank are stateless people living under military rule. Did he say this to mean we shouldn't mind that an an Israeli tech firm has been contracted by the city to survey us. I remain deeply concerned about this contract and demand the city cut its ties with Zen City.
Gregory Vanderplo. And again, apologies if I said your name wrong.
Thank you. I'm representing myself as a citizen of Minneapolis. Your parents fought against supremacy, any form of supremacy. This is returning to the United States now. We do not want to have surveillance. This is a road to taking our rights. This will lead to a supremacist society. We do not want our rights taken away. This company is a spyware company. They are using this for getting into our social media. We do not want that. Your parents fought against supremacy. Your parents fought against supremacy. Your grandparents fought against supremacy. We have to fight against supremacy. This is coming to the United States now. They want to have Israel first. They want to have Israel just like Israel. The United States will be just like another Israel, whether attacking minorities. You're queer. I'm a queer person. They'll attack marginal people. They'll attack minorities. Let's stop this. I have Jewish heritage. Jews have no connection with supremacy historically for thousands of years. Judaism at heart, they are non-supremacists. That is what Judaism is. Same for Christianity. Do not allow them to use these names for Christians or Jewish to have any association with supremacy. This is a nightmare that this had occurred, that they're committing genocide right now. It has nothing to do with Judaism. It was an ideology, tragically misguided, that caused this to happen. Please, stop this. Let dissent do. Everyone in this room is peaceful. They want peaceful dissent. They are not violent. Everyone I met is nonviolent. They want peaceful dissent, discussion. We want that to occur.
Thank you.
And remember your parents. And remember your children. Your children will report as your grandparents did. They will not be supremacists.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further public comments, we've completed all comments. Thank you. The next order of business is reports. I've allocated 10 minutes to each of the staff reports. We'll begin with the report from the Office of Police Conduct Review, which will be presented by Director Fujisawa. Welcome, Director.
Good evening. Just taking a quick look at our agenda for this evening. Just some quick updates on the CCPO recruitment. I know we've already touched on it briefly. Our usual intake updates as well as our administrative investigations updates. We'll discuss some updates with staffing as we try to wrap that up, and then we'll just our monthly review of review panels. CCPO recruitment. The application, as it stands right now, is currently open until the 16th of March. We are working to extend that deadline to match up with the other boards and commissions, and just to allow us additional time to get more materials out into the community, allow time for other applications now that the main cycle has opened and began. These are just some of the areas in which we've engaged the community to date. I know a number of commissioners were at the Community Connections Conference and had an opportunity to engage the public, provide some information, encourage applications. We posted, the Civil Rights Department has posted on its various social media channels. We've used city communications, such as press releases and other channels, to promote the openings and the upcoming cycle for the remainder of the seats. And we've also participated in some promotional interviews with local cultural radio stations here in Minneapolis. Additionally, we've distributed physical materials and pamphlets at these locations. Obviously, many more. This is not a comprehensive list, but just to give you a sense of where we have been extending our outreach. So you can see Minneapolis Mad Dads, NCTC, the Armitage Neighborhood Association, Sammy's Avenue Eatery, as well as the the Minneapolis American Indian Center. Taking a look at our intake unit, year to date, so just January and February, we've had 31 complaints filed. Obviously, you can see from the chart here that we've had many more inquiries. So our office continues to field a large number of contacts from the community. We do our best to triage all of these to the appropriate places, to investigate thoroughly, to refer where appropriate, and then to investigate where it's needed. Currently, we have 85 complaints in our intake queue. Of those 85, 70 are over our 30-day target, as mandated by the settlement agreement and the consent decree. I think it's really important to note, though, in this next bullet, the average duration of our intake investigations currently is 21 days. So the investigations themselves are within compliance. It's just the age of the complaints that is putting us over that threshold right now. So we continue to chip away at the remaining intake cases, and we're making great progress every month, prioritizing the clearance so that we can get in compliance and stay in compliance. As highlighted previously, we have 0 complaints in our intake backlog. The complaints that do remain in our backlog are those that were deemed administrative investigations. And so I think if you remember from our October meeting where it was presented that there were 264 complaints in the backlog queue. Of those 264, you can see 120 became administrative investigations, 3 of which are cleared. And you can see as you look down, you see the number that are currently assigned, pending assignment, and in different stages of the review cycle. So either sitting with review panel or in queue to be scheduled in the supervisory review period. But it's really important to see that of those 117 investigations that remain, currently 58 are assigned and being worked on, and a number of others are in the review process or ready to be reviewed by panel. And I think it's important to note this bullet here that we are calling closed for the sake of this report and the conversations that we're here having about the backlog is that it has gone through final review by the Chief of Police. I had mentioned that we are working to complete the staffing within OPCR. Currently, we are recruiting for 3 investigators, and that will be across the intake and the administrative investigation side. And this is, obviously to fill out the team, but also to insulate us from shocks and public events like we have seen historically that have created this backlog. So one, it will help us work through the volume that we have now, but it will also prevent us from being in a situation similar to the one we're currently experiencing. 2 additional OPCR vacancies have also been filled. We've discussed previously. One is particularly devoted to the requirement in the settlement agreement and to supporting the CCPO in that policy and research coordinator, as well as a management analyst that will support the policy work, the assessment, the analysis, and provide some recommendations there as well on internal OPCR policies, MPD policies, and just our general operating procedures. In February, we had 23 cases that were in queue for the month, of which 9 belonged to internal affairs, and the remaining 14 were from OPCR investigations. We had 7 panel sessions scheduled, but only 4 sessions were ultimately held, and we were able to review 3 cases from OPCR and 1 from internal affairs. And the discrepancy there between what was scheduled and what was actually held was due to a cancellation during the holiday weekend. And so we're aware of that and the challenges there in having cases scheduled and prepared. But also, I think I've mentioned this in the past, the adoption of the CCPO calendar with those set dates allows for us to move these cases just to the next session. It's not ideal, but it's the benefit that we have in having an established calendar. And we continue to try to add additional review panel dates in between those scheduled dates. So just because we have a minimum of 4 each month does not mean that we will only have 4 when we're able to fully seat a panel. Just a note here that March calendar invites have been sent out, and we're requesting days available for CCPO members to sit on those panels. If those emails are sitting in your inbox or you're trying to figure out your calendar, please go ahead and sign up so that we can get additional cases lined up, get materials to you all so that they can be reviewed with ample time, and so we can keep moving through that process. Changing gears a little, I know that there have been some questions and some information around the settlement agreement, the consent decree, bylaws. I don't expect people to be able to, go to these links and go to these locations right now, but we wanted to provide this as an important resource for your continued work. I know we've, very deeply have worked with and engaged with the settlement agreement. There continue to be conversations around the consent decree, but the city will continue to move forth with those efforts. So it's important to familiarize yourself with what is there, the distinctions in one agreement versus another, but what we ultimately are working towards. Obviously, with the ordinance and ABC ordinance codes, it's always important to stay up to speed on those and to be familiar with those, just in terms of our operation as a body. And then obviously the clerk's office is extremely helpful in being able to provide those hard copy materials or just direct us to the appropriate resources when needed. Here's just our contact information for the office. These are just some of the channels through which we've promoted the CCPO recruitment, as well as some of our other work and our other community engagement. And with that, have some time for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Commissioner Bostic.
Director, thank you very much. And I really appreciate your speedy response to my fairly frequent emails. A couple of questions. This is very positive. I just wanted to say that I thought that Director Phillips' idea to actually sort of increase our pool for panelists, which we have all talked about, I have talked about, and I think there's great concern about, to take eligible individuals from the Civil Rights Commission, inspired. Fabulous idea. I just wanted to absolutely be sure, it seemed from her email, that the individuals from the Civil Rights Commission, and that's a much bigger commission, 21 people, a number of which are attorneys, is that the qualifications to sit on our panel are identical. They have to go through the identical training, and they have to go through the identical background check.
Correct.
Wonderful. And can you tell me how many people, individuals from the panel, from the Civil Rights Commission are actually now in our pool, that are bumping up our pool?
So 7 have been identified, 3 have completed their background check and are nearly completed with their training. I think there is 1 remaining review panel training to be held that will also get others up to speed and eligible to sit on panel as well. So currently it is 3 have passed background, and there are 4 that remain to complete the rest of their training.
Very exciting, thank you.
Okay, so we have come to time, and so if someone would like to make a motion to extend conversation on this topic?
I would like to make a motion to extend the conversation by 10 minutes so that commissioners have the same amount of time to ask questions as the presentation.
All right, there's been a motion. Is there a second?
I would second that, or modify that down to 5.
The friendly amendment is not accepted. I think we should have the same amount of time to ask questions and make comments as the presentation. We didn't need to hear about how to contact the OPCR. We've known that for 18 to 20 months. So when we have more time for presentation and questions, we're not allowed to do our job. So my motion is 10 minutes.
10 minutes. You've made your motion. Thank you. Is there a second to the motion for 10 minutes?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I would prefer 5, so I'll probably vote no.
Okay. So the motion on the floor for 10 minutes to extend conversation. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Shanfield.
No.
Commissioner Clement.
No.
Commissioner Smith-Koyman.
Aye.
Commissioner Bastick.
Aye.
Commissioner Stewart.
No.
Commissioner Gurien-Sherman.
Aye.
Commissioner Canaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams-Johnson.
Nay.
Commissioner Smith.
No.
Vice Chair Olson.
No.
Chair Reeves.
No.
There are 4 ayes and 7 nays.
Is there another motion?
I'll make a motion to extend for 5 minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Shanfield.
Yes, aye.
Clement.
Yeah, aye.
Smith Koyman.
Aye.
Bastick.
Aye.
Stewart.
Aye.
Gurian Sherman.
Aye.
Canada.
Aye.
Williams Johnson.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olson.
Aye.
Chair Reeves.
Yes.
There are 11 ayes.
Excuse me, yes. Commissioner Sheffield.
Quick question, Director Fujisawa, thank you so much for your report. When you said that the deadline might be extended, could you just say to when, and would that apply to those of us who have to reapply for our roles as well?
So we're just in the process of extending just since the normal period has just opened as well. So we're trying to just take advantage of the most amount of time that we can to have it open so that we can have the most robust recruitment possible. In terms of the second part of your question, I will defer to the clerk's office for some clarification on that piece.
Through the chair, I'll just say that the priority for us is filling the current 3 vacant seats. And so I am pleased to be able to announce that just before coming in here, I checked in our online queue, and we do have at least, I think, 2 or 3 applicants in each of the wards we're currently lacking, Commissioner Fort 1, 11, 12. So I don't know that we'll need to extend that too much longer. We will obviously keep through the end of the recruitment cycle, which is March 31st, for those seats that are due to be reappointed at the end of May of this year. And so there are a number of other seats who are coming up on their first ending of an appointment process, Ward 2, for example. And so those who wish to be considered to be reappointed for those seats should obviously get into the system, fill out a membership profile, and reapply.
Thank you. Commissioner Gurney Sherman.
Thank you. Thank you for that report. I appreciate it. I have a lot of questions about the email that we got from Civil Rights Director Phillips, and I see that she's come into the room, so thank you for being here. I have a lot of questions. I don't think they're all going to be answered, so I'm going to start with one, and then I'll just list the ones, and then I'll send them to you. I really would like to know in Director Phillips's email that she sent to us, after the fact, after the ordinance was introduced to have more people serve, who exactly are the stakeholders that were involved in coming up with this? I'm assuming that Arlinda Westbrook was one of them, because back on December 17th, she texted me, do you have time for a call to discuss the possibility of CCPO being expanded, end quote. I responded the same day, if you're looking for something that would pass the CCPO, then you should send something to the entire CCPO, then have it added as an agenda item to give a presentation to flesh out ideas and options. I find it incredibly disconcerting that the only people in the entire city that have experience sitting on review panels have not been involved in this discussion. Instead, I sat in on a full council meeting, heard this ordinance being initiated, and felt invisible. We are the community commission on police oversight, community oversight, and we were bypassed. I can't believe that people seeing this have any trust that we are acting transparently, that we are being involved, that we are moving towards engaging the public and those of us who have volunteered on this committee. So I want to know who were the stakeholders. I don't think you'll be able to give it to us this meeting, but I'm expecting it the next meeting.
Commissioner Green, I'll just add real quick. I'm looking at the time, and we have 2 other questions.
I just
So
list
please
my
state your
questions
question.
for the record.
Thank you.
Why weren't CCPO commissioners as a whole involved? Were some commissioners involved and not others? Under what circumstances were they contacted? Were meetings held behind closed doors? My concern I want to express about the civil rights commissioners, although I think they're really well qualified, and I like an idea to go towards that, I'm concerned they were not vetted to go into doing review
Commissioner
panels.
Gurner, I would just like you to
And
ask
so
your
my question
question.
is,
Thank you.
why not have an ordinance that allows any resident who otherwise fits the qualifications for a CCPO commissioner to be on review panels? Why is that not part of what has gone to the city council? And then I would just like to say that
If you could,
I think
Commissioner
that
Gray
we
Sherman,
need to have,
Commissioner Gray Sherman,
I think we
one
need to
moment.
have this
Commissioner Gray Sherman,
transparency
Commissioner Gray
before
Sherman,
ordinances
Point of
go.
order, please.
I would ask that you, if you have a lot of questions, that you submit them by email. We want to get the other commissioners who did not get a chance to ask a question.
That's why I
thought
said
you were-
ask for
but-
10 minutes.
But we didn't get 10 minutes, we got 5 minutes. So I wanted to make sure that everyone gets the opportunity to ask their questions. So I would ask the Commissioner Candidate, please submit your questions. You heard her questions, if you could submit them by email. Commissioner Candidate and then Commissioner Bostic. Thank you.
Chair, if I may, really quickly, and we've already asked the clerk to go ahead and stop the time, just so I can be clear about this. There were several concerns over several months about the bandwidth of this commission. I listened, and I did talk to many stakeholders, and I've said that to this body, I would be looking at different avenues. The city council has the ability to amend ordinances, not me. I went forward to city stakeholders with an idea to help with the bandwidth, understanding that there is a backlog in OPCR and a backlog in IA, which then means that there will be a backlog at the feet of the panel. With that said, nobody thought about the bandwidth of this body at that time. There will be considerations, as you all know, and Commissioner Gray and Sherman said eloquently, that this is only one provision. The entire ordinance is currently open, and there are members of City Council who is looking at the entire ordinance to help suffice to ensure that you all have the additional bandwidth that you need moving forward. So I do appreciate the grace and the patience as we continue to work through this process. There are growing pains. I have absolutely no problem whatsoever being transparent. And for those who do have questions about the vetting process, every civil rights commissioner, as every CCPO commissioner eligible to sit on panels, will go through the same exact process. And that is something that Director Fujisawa and myself will continue to make sure that we do with the assistance of all stakeholders involved. Thank you so much for the question.
Commissioner Kennedy.
In the interest of time, I'll just be very brief in flagging what I was separately planning to say about this issue, which is I was not part of any group, if there was one, that had any discussion about this. I'm keeping an open mind about it, and I appreciate the reasons presented as to why this change has been sought, which is arguably for our protection. But my concern relates to the founding principle of this commission being that this group is going to hear the information in those review panels, and we are now artificially spreading that out. So I think it was worthy of a discussion. Thank you.
In the interest of time, we did run out of time, but if we could just let her ask her one question, if the commissioners are amenable to that. Commissioner Bostic.
I appreciate it. Alifa monitors have showed up at a couple of review panels. If you could just quickly clarify that they have to make themselves present. They can't be there behind the scenes. And are they allowed to actually participate, ask questions, anything like that?
So yes, thank you for that question. And yes, they are allowed to attend, and they are there to provide technical assistance and to observe, as they are for the rest of the requirements of the settlement agreement. So in terms of reviewing the operations and the process, they are there to provide technical guidance and assistance through their observations. If they see a fault in the process or something that can be improved, they are, we welcome that feedback. And they are participants. They are visible participants. They are visible attendees in those virtual sessions. They are not behind the scenes, so they are in attendance.
But again, are they allowed to actually join in the discussions? That's what I was really getting at. So they're here, but they have to be silent.
So to provide that technical assistance in terms of how to review a case and to, nothing specific in not providing recommendations in terms of how to make a decision, but in terms of looking at the case and the process and the review process, providing guidance in terms of how panelists can and should be doing that in an objective and compliant way.
Okay.
No, it's not. It's monitoring. It's a quality assurance on the process because the review panel is a critical part of the disciplinary process, and to review and provide recommendations on the investigations that are written. And ALIFA is there to provide that recommendation for technical changes that should be made in the observation of that.
But are they sitting with the five panelists?
One moment. It's not like we're going to have another person up to ask this question, and so we have went over time. So I would ask that you, if you could shed some light, and then we can go on to the next item.
Hi, I'm Assistant City Attorney Samantha Pelini, and the answer is they do not participate in deliberations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. I'll
But
direct
can you answer, are they physically in the room with the five panelists? I would like to hear this from the Assistant City Attorney.
I would ask that we not shout out, please. I would ask that you be called upon. We all know what the Robert's rules, right? They've asked the question. If there's any further questions, please submit them by email. They just stated that they were allowed to be in the room, and it is so.
Please tell me if this is out of order.
Yes.
Can we just add an agenda item for our next meeting to have a more robust discussion about ALIFA?
I think it's completely in order, and then when we ask for agenda item requests, you can just submit that. But absolutely.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I'll direct the clerk to receive and file that report. Thank you very much. Next up is the monthly report from the Police Department's Internal Affairs Division. I'll invite Ms. Hastings to come up and present.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. So here's our monthly report from MPD Internal Affairs. Again, my name's Lily Hastings. I'm the case manager in Internal Affairs. So tonight, just going over our table of contents, we're going to briefly touch on some training updates. We're going to go through IA backlog updates since October 2024 very briefly, and then we're going to talk about IA statistics and trends. So just on training updates, now that we are becoming pretty close to finalizing our SOP with our city stakeholders and ALIFA, and still working on drafting 2-100 policy that our subcommittee had reviewed. We now are switching gears to creating a training plan for those documents. We have to create a training plan for each of those documents. And then we also have to create a training plan for training all of MPD on the new changes in these, like all of MPD, not just the people in IA that are working, but everybody across the whole MPD enterprise. So we're working on drafting those training plans now, and just so we are very clear on the process, that is going to require the same level of review and approvals that the SOP and the drafted 2-100 policy are requiring. So we do still have to meet with our city entities, our city stakeholders, like IA, OPCR, MPD Implementation Unit, City Attorney's Office, our policy writers, ALIFA. We do still have to have working sessions with ALIFA, MDHR, all of those same things that we did for the SOP and the policy we will continue to have to do for our training plan. And we're just in the very early stages of working on that. All right. Moving on to our backlog update. So building off of the graph that we have started to see in the last couple months here at this meeting, we were at 112 backlog admin investigations back in around October 2024. And now, as of last week, we are at 39 backlog admin investigations. Just adding something here as coming soon. I know there wasn't a graph here. That wasn't an error on our part. In our conversations with ALIFA, one of the things that we want to be able to show is the responsibilities through IA. Obviously, we know there are responsibilities beyond IA, like the review panel, chief's office, grievance and arbitration, all of those things. And those things contribute to our backlog clearance rate. But being able to show when IA's responsibilities for our backlog are completed at that point, that is something we are actively working on providing data for, again, through our conversations with ALIFA. So I would anticipate to see that fairly soon, and we will share that with this body as well. Again, building on a graph that we've seen the last couple of months, you'll see, again, our clearance rate is still 36%, specifically because that requires us to get through review panel, chief's office, grievance, and arbitration if there are any. So again, this is kind of combating the need to show when IA's responsibilities are done versus when the city's responsibilities are done with these cases. Moving on to our statistics and trends. You will see lots of new stuff here. I believe many of which were specific questions asked by this body and requests asked by this body at previous meetings to include. So we're going to start with our normal slide. So we have open intakes as of the end of last week. We had 20 cases. Our average age was 26 days, which is up 2 days from the previous month. And the average duration to complete the intake phase is 25 days. And similar to like you had just heard from Director Fujisawa, we do have 30 days to complete the intake, so we're still within our 30-day range. Open investigations in IA. Again, these are admin investigations. So as of last week, we had 61 total cases. Our average age is 335 days, which is down 14 days from the previous month. We have 39 of those 61 that are considered backlog, and we have 22 that are considered current cases. 53 of those 66 are assigned, and 8 of those 66 are unassigned. Unassigned cases are cases that are current. They're not backlog cases that have just been sitting there waiting. I believe that number is actually lower. I think it's almost at 0. I'm not going to say it's quite at 0, but I think it's almost at 0 after we've done some assignments this week after our investigators have turned in their ISRs for their backlog cases. Expedited dispositions, as of last week, we had 126 cases. 87 of the 126 are considered backlog. 39 of those 126 are considered current. We are starting to send many of these cases through now. We had to come up with a temporary solution with Chief's Office to find the responsible person to help us handle these cases, unfortunately, just due to staffing turnover. We do have a solution in place right now. We had a meeting to discuss how this is going to go, what are all the responsibilities. So you'll start to see that number decrease here very shortly. Just within the past week, I believe we had sent 10 cases over to them after this February 26th deadline, so you'll start to see this number actually lower finally. And then the last one on this slide is open admin investigation cases in supervisory review. We had 43 cases that are in supervisory review. And just as a reference, this does not include our expedited disposition cases. Those 126 cases still needed to go through the same level of supervisory review. And we had prioritized those cases through supervisory review. So those are completed. And now we're working on our admin investigation supervisor reviews. Moving on, you'll see we're keeping, the same trend, adding to this graph. So in February, we received 22 incoming complaints, and we only processed 12 of them in February, so this was a relatively low month for us. Unfortunately, we had a lot of staff not be able to be in the office this month, so you'll see why that number is significantly lower than usual. Our total number of open IA investigations, this is the same thing that you've seen before, split out by current and backlog. We just talked through this in 2 previous slides, so I'm going to keep moving through this one. Now we get to some new stuff. So we've got our intake data. This is specifically those 12 intake cases that were completed between February 1st and February 26th. So we've broken everything out into incident date. So you see the vast majority of those cases, 50%, were cases where the incident actually happened in January 2025. And then you'll see some other incident dates there, with our oldest one being February 2024. I'm sure there is a question as to how we can be compliant with the 30 days and see an incident date like that. Just a reminder that we are not the only city entities, OPCR and IA, that have backlogs. We have backlogs in our traffic investigations, we have backlogs in pursuit investigations, and we have backlogs in our force investigations as well. So as those centers start, or as those investigative units start working through their backlog, The same way that we have, you'll still continue to see cases where there's a later incident date than the most recent within 30 days. We did also split out our incidents by precinct, so that would be the location of the actual call. Typically, sometimes things can change and they might move a precinct, so this is a starting precinct. And then just a caveat that we do have things like outside of Minneapolis and NA. NA is things that are happening like virtually, like a social media or an hours worked, things like that, where there isn't really a location in mind. We broke out our intake data with those 12 completed cases by our topic categories. This is something that is new with our drafted SOP. So you'll see these fairly frequently again with our different categories that are being alleged within this violation. You can be in multiple categories, so you might notice that the totals don't quite add up. The topic category attaches to each allegation, not a case itself. So you'll see the vast majority of our allegations within those intakes are in vehicle or driving related conduct. The next slide is just a deeper dive into those vehicle or driving related conduct allegations. So we can see exactly where those allegations are and what type. So just to highlight, we have, a fourth of that was preventable collisions, meaning an officer was in an accident that our traffic review committee had deemed to have been preventable, something like backing into a post or going through a stoplight or a stop sign, like rolling through one and accidentally getting hit or hitting someone else.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Gray-Sherman.
I'd like to propose a motion for 10 more minutes so that Ms. Hastings can finish her presentation and we can be allowed comment and questions.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All right, clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Shanfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Clement.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith-Koiman.
Aye.
Commissioner Bastic.
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart.
Aye.
Commissioner Gurian-Sherman.
Aye.
Commissioner Canaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams-Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olson.
Yes.
Chair Reeves.
Yes.
There are 11 ayes.
Thank you. Continue. Yeah, okay.
Time for questions. So the last part of our intake data is we just want to show our routing decisions. So the vast majority of our intake cases kind of aligned with those vehicle and driving pursuits. Related conduct is expedited disposition. Then we move into investigation data. So this is all relating to our open admin investigations. So not just our backlog, but all 61 of those open investigations as of our February 26th date. This one shows generally our incident date. You'll notice a lot of them are from 2024, 2023. And again, there's still older cases down there back in 2020. These ones are, floating through in our investigation backlog. Those are the ones that are being prioritized. The highest are 2020, then 2021, 2022, and so on. Oh, and just to note, this is separated out by month, so you can see trends, or at least attempt to see trends within the coming months of how many we're getting per month. We also did the same thing with investigations, just separating out by incident location precinct, so you can start to see those trending data as we present them in the coming months. And then the last one, I believe, is topic category again, just for our investigations, not just intake. And I think that's it.
Thank you very much. Are there any I'm going to go to Smith-Koiman because she hasn't spoken. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I was just wondering, can you just quickly go over what the review process is for the training? Because you said it's going to be a similar process as the SOP and the 2-100, so just kind of wondering quickly what that would look like.
Yep, so as we were doing the SOP and 2-100, we had to, someone was designated as a point person to start drafting. We had to then do roundtable meetings with our various city stakeholders. Once we were solid as our city stakeholders with a good draft, then we send over informal drafts to ALIFA to start some working sessions. Once we feel like we are at a good stage, then we start to invite in our formal working sessions that we do with ALIFA and MDHR. And then once we typically do about 2 different sessions of those working sessions, and when we get to a final draft, we get approvals from ALIFA, and Sam, you might want to help me on that one. I don't think it's an approval from MDHR. Right. So we just get an approval from ALIFA. We still get input from MDHR. But once we have our stamp of approval from ALIFA, then we move forward on actually doing a training for our staff on those documents.
Thank you. Commissioner Bostic.
Thank you so much. Quick question about the expediting process, which as I understand it, and I am qualified to sit on a review panel, is when there's a violation, and an officer goes, yep, mea culpa, and it just speeds up the whole process, and there's some suitable consequence to that. If you know this, did that process exist in 2020, specifically more to the end of 2020, or is this a newer thing?
This is a newer thing. To my understanding, it existed sometime around 2022 in its very first existence, and then that kind of went away for a period of time, and now it's being restarted again. It just wasn't utilized in 2022 like they had anticipated. The structure wasn't set up correctly. So it was there, it wasn't being utilized as an option, and now as we come in through the settlement, which dictates that we can have some type of expedited disposition process, we restarted, made it, added our language into the SOP and policies to comply with that settlement agreement, and that's part of the SOP and 2100 policy that we're still waiting for approval on from ALIFA.
That's exactly what I needed to do. So officers, if I was an MPD officer right now, and somebody files either internally or externally a complaint, do you believe that officers are all absolutely clear that that's an option for them?
I believe that we are. We have communicated with the Federation as well, and they've sent out emails to which we've seen copies of those emails to the broad membership that is an option for officers. We will also, once the 2100 policy gets approved, there will be a chief's memo that goes out in a special order detailing that there are some changes in here, and that goes out to every single MPD employee, sworn and civilian.
Super, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Green-Sherman.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hastings, you previously were with the Office of Police Conduct Review, and now you're with Internal Affairs, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so just so people watching maybe for the first time, OPCR handles complaints that come from civilians. Internal Affairs handles complaints that come from other police officers or staff, but otherwise they go through the same process.
Correct.
So when you were with OPCR and you were in a high-level position, did you sit in on review panels?
I can't speak very heavily to my time at OPCR. I was a supervisor for a brief period at OPCR, and I did do review panel work at that point.
But did you actually sit in on the review panels?
I cannot answer to that part.
Now that you're with Internal Affairs, do you actually sit in on the review panels like ALIFA does?
In Internal Affairs, we are not responsible for the review panel process. We are responsible, like our OPCR is responsible for the review panel. We're responsible for the chief's office side of it. So just the same as how OPCR helps and facilitates the review panel, we do the same for the chief's office.
I remember that you did review panels that I sat on, and you specifically said that OPCR will not ever sit on a review panel. Can you explain what the public policy was around that? And was it around the fact that if you have staff involved in the review panels, that it's piercing the confidentiality and causing a chilling effect for any of the panelists, the 3 civilians or the 2 police officers?
I can't speak to the policy at that point. Unfortunately, I am no longer employed with OPCR, so I can only speak to current policy that regards IA.
And do you know of the people who are sitting on with ALIFA, are they former police officers?
To my knowledge, I don't know which ALIFA members are present or not present.
And just going to a different topic entirely, and this might be a question for the city clerk, do we know how many people have been applying for the CCPO positions and by what ward?
Through the chair, I'll just say we have received some applications for the various wards that are open, both immediately, the 3 vacancies, and then the additional 6 that end in May. I don't have a total number that I could share.
Okay, and then just another question. Again, I don't know if this is for Ms. Hastings or for the clerk. For people who want to apply to the CCPO but do not live in the wards where there is an opening, are they barred from applying? In other words, can you only apply for a ward that you live in?
Through the chair, I'll take that one. No, you are not required to live in the ward. The ward basis is for the nominating process, not for the residency requirement.
Thank you. That's a huge question that I'm getting, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Ms. Hastings. I appreciate your presentation. I appreciate your graphs. I think we all learn differently, and when I read your reports, when I can see the graphs, I can really see the correlation, and I would just say that I learn even more after the meeting when I go back and review the materials after hearing what you've said. So appreciate it very much, and also want to say the same to the OPCR director. These materials are very helpful, they're very dense, and it does take me several times to really get through what you're getting at. And I appreciate you both keeping at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. And I also concur. I really appreciate the intake data and incidents by precinct is how you broke the information down in terms of what's out there. It's very helpful. Thank you. Any further comments? Okay. Thank you. I'll direct the clerk to receive and file that report. Next, we'll take up reports from our standing committees. I've allocated 15 minutes to each committee. The first report is from our Police Policy Research and Recommendations Committee. That report will be given by the committee chair, Commissioner Shanfield.
Thank you so much, Chair. I first would like to celebrate the entire PPRR committee is here tonight, so shout out to you. Thank you. And thanks for all your hard work. I'm excited to have some meaty reports to share with you what we've been up to. And if there is any time at the end, perhaps we can start the discussion about the cycle of review between the committees. That's something I'm hoping that we can eventually figure out. So first, a big shout out to Commissioner Bastick, Kennedy, Olson, and Williams-Johnson. Thank you for all of your participation, for your help in the last couple months, and also a big shout out to Clerk Carl and Ms. Starr from OPCR and Ms. Polini from the City Attorney Office. They've been instrumental, and Mr. Waldman for helping us make this committee execute this committee. And then a special shout out to Lieutenant Robinson from the Minneapolis Implementation Unit. He attended our last meeting, and it was really powerful to have him there in person. We were able to have a dialogue and figure out which policies and the timing of which would be the most important for us to do our job of policy review. So what you see in the packet here is it should say draft all over it because it's just a draft, and it is our comments on the 4 policies that we reviewed. I would also like to note that we were experimenting. So the first month in January, we reviewed policies that were up for review, as you'll remember, on the public website. And last month, we thought, well, we don't know which ones are coming up, and we asked several times, and we're told that it was unknown which were next. So we just took a shot and or took a guess, and we looked at some of the active policies, and we started realizing. By getting the ball rolling, we were able to get some feedback from the city attorney and from the implementation unit as well, and figure out what the right order and moving forward would be. So now we're in the middle of a process. Hopefully we'll finish it in our meeting in March of laying out which policies we'll review when, so that people will know, people can provide input, and that there will be sort of a standing approach to a methodical approach to how we're going about this. So the February draft in your packet is the 4 policies. In particular, the long and really meaty policy is 7-805 for crowd management. And we had a lot to say, and I will give a shout out to people who were part of the Police Policy Recommendations and Research Working Group as well last year, because a lot of the work that we did in looking at other cities came in really handy. And so we were able to compare policies that MPD is putting forward or has in action right now with some other cities, especially cities that are under consent decree and cities of a similar size, so that we could really say, hey, this is in this policy and it's not in MPD's. Here's where we think there might be some place for improvement. So that is, you'll have this for review. My hope is that the Community Engagement Committee will next be able to take a look at that. The January report and the February report, provide any feedback to us, and then that way we can submit it appropriately. Because of the policies, we submitted the January one because there was a deadline. The good news we heard directly from Lieutenant Robinson is that MPD is required to review any feedback we provide at any time. So even though we missed a deadline on the public-facing website, in fact, those are when they have to have their ducks in a row for the oversight monitor, but that any feedback coming in an ongoing manner from us will be considered. So we were really glad to hear that, and that goes for the public as well. So at the end of our report, I did provide a QR code and a link for anyone in the public who'd like to provide additional feedback on the policy. We welcome you to do that, and please know it will be considered. And it's a bit laborious to go through the policies line by line, but I also think there's real big reward in helping to move police work forward. So with that, any of the commissioners here tonight on the commission in general who sit on the discipline panels, I'm going to set up a shared folder for us, that if you are in a review panel and you notice a policy that seems unclear or is poorly applied or doesn't seem to fit or is, too short, too long, you've got some thoughts about it, I would ask that because we get those policies in the review packet, if you would put it in the folder, that way the committee will be able to know that that's an important one to prioritize and to look into. I hope that is, we want to include everybody in the policy review as much as possible. So that is the next step. And then I have a reminder. I guess talk fast, good. I have a reminder for the meeting. It probably is in the agenda later on, but just a reminder that there is an NELIFA policy information session being held next Wednesday at 6 p.m. at the Ukrainian American Center, 301 Northeast Main Street. And the PPRR will be represented there, but we invite everyone, the community and commission, anyone is welcome, and we would look forward to discussion about that afterwards with you. So because there's a little bit of time left, first I'd like to invite any of the other committee members to share anything I forgot, and then perhaps we could have a short conversation about the review process. And we'll go in alphabetical order. Basdick.
Mara, thank you. And Mara, by the way, does an amazing job chairing this. And also, shout out to the city clerk who takes our minutes. I have no clue how you follow along and you get those minutes out to us, because it's truly, truly remarkable and much appreciated. Mara, I have a comment, but I just wanted to ask you if you could let us know. Is that we currently have 5 members, and is a room for more members? I think we're allowed 2 more, but I'm not sure.
That's right.
Fantastic. So the point that Mara made about if you're on a review panel and you come across a policy that is part of your review panel that you're not clear on, or clearly maybe one of the officers that's being reviewed is not clear on, and that you forward it to us, I just wanted to say this, that the biggest gain that I have being on this committee, and I know it's a lot of work, it's a lot of extra time, is as a panelist, I have found it enormously useful to be part of this process. I have learned so much from taking a look at these policies, and I can take that information with me onto a panel, and I can much, much better understand the process. And it's just super helpful. So we would love more help, and really it's a super plus. If you're on a review panel, it really is helpful.
Great. Kennedy.
Nothing to add except my compliments.
Olson.
I agree with Commissioner Kennedy.
Williams Johnson.
I agree with everyone.
Oh, I think they're saying teamwork makes the dream work. I think that's what's happening. I will say, Commissioner Bassick, your comments reminded me too that when Ms. Hastings was up here and she was talking about the 2100 policy, I was like, oh, I happen to remember that is the prevention, reporting, and investigation set of policies. So we really are learning a lot, and we really are those meetings are open to the public. They don't seem to be particularly popular, but we welcome anyone who wants to dig in and review policy with us. And finally, I would like to, I'm looking forward to the next report from the next committee and looking forward to some cooperation and collaboration. We've had several conversations about what that review cycle could look like. So would love any thoughts about how I can be helpful as the PPRR chair, what we can provide to the Community Engagement Commission. That conversation, I think, is an important one. So perhaps you'll touch on that, Commissioner Smith, when it's your turn. Yes, please.
First, I just want to say, Commissioner Scheinfeld, when you started chairing this committee, which was first a work group, it was like herding cats. So congratulations. You have you learned how to herd cats. I just think this is an excellent report. I like the process where we can get it, we can study it. I do want to make a specific comment about the crowd management, and I want to preface this with something, somebody came to me as a commissioner and related a very disturbing event that happened in December. A group of people went to Senator Klobuchar's office to make a point, using their right to free speech. The MPD showed up. I don't know how many there were. I don't know if the number of 50 was exaggerated. The people were leaving, so they were abiding by the order to leave. They were kettled, and one person was arrested on felony rioting charges. I want people to understand what an arrest, not even a conviction, on your record for felony rioting has when you're a young person, any person. And the reason they did that was so that they could hold this person for 2 days and teach them a lesson about exercising their rights to free speech. So when you have in the policy about crowd management and how civil disturbance can be hard to relate with civil unrest and unlawful assembly, I think we need to make sure we're talking about civil disobedience, we're talking about free speech, and I don't see that here. I'm not criticizing it, but I think that when we only talk to police officers about civil disturbance and we are not teaching them and making clear that people have a right to protest, and they don't have to like the speech, but they don't have a right to arrest somebody to teach them a lesson and then, basically say we're not going to go through with those charges. And by the way, those charges hang over this person and can be initiated into charges at any time. The one thing I want to say about just the process as a whole, I'm still very concerned about missing deadlines, and I understand what you're saying, that it's good that MPD at the highest levels will consider feedback after a deadline goes. But my understanding as a lawyer and reading the MDHR settlement agreement is that it is Hennepin County District Court Judge Karen Janich that has the final say on whether these policies are going to, pass muster. You send this to the judge, and then later on there's feedback. I don't think you're going to have a lot of luck getting that additional feedback before the judge. At that point, this judge, who has many other cases, complex cases, and this has got to be one of the most complex, isn't going to take kindly to reviewing something that should have been done and only been asked one time. So I still remain incredibly concerned about the 120 days and the 40 days, and my biggest concern is how it is that we get feedback after it's gone and been approved by the judge. I'm glad that MPD will listen to it, but it literally has no effect if the judge says, you wasted my time by coming to me with something after the fact. We have to get a handle on that. So I hate to say it, but that's another job for the commission of herding cats that we have to really settle, and I don't think it is.
I just don't understand that to be a real issue in our timeline. I don't think things are going to the judge. We've got plenty of time to provide our input before MPD finalizes view of the policy that then goes on for approvals. I don't think we're talking about getting involved after a judge approves a policy. It's just not in the...
That's right. And also, what we learned is that the policies, I believe, under the settlement agreement, have to be reviewed regularly. So the idea was if it doesn't get in this year, it will get in the next round, so that the feedback is always being collected, because the policies, as you can see, like when we were serving on panels, it'll say when the policies was last updated at the top of the policies. So it's an ongoing process. And that reminds me, thanks for bringing that up, Commissioner Grangerman. In the second to last page of, the third to last page 4, in our committee report, and then in the very, very last page of your packet, I guess that's probably the easiest visual, we do have a visual because the city attorney explained to us the timeline for policy review and what the different deadlines and times mean, and so we kindly asked them, or they kindly agreed to make a visual for us. So there's an explanation at the end of our report as well, which essentially clarified to us that that most of the policies that MPD is putting up for review because of the settlement agreement are for 30 days. And that they are electing to put more, they're choosing to put up more policies. And those volunteered policies were posted as well.
Madam Chair, I'm going to interrupt because time's running out. What you're talking about is item 10 on the agenda.
Great.
And there's a whole time for that.
Oh, good. I didn't see it on there, so I'm so glad you did. Stay tuned for more. And thank you for the title of cat herder. I take it with, I think I will yield my time. Thank you.
I'll just say thank you for this very, very detailed report. I think it's very important for the public to understand that there is ongoing policy review and that it's not a stagnant time, and that if it goes in front of whomever it goes in front of, we can continuously add input and provide input to MPD on policy recommendations, whether they come through the PPRR group, the public comes or provides feedback per the QR code, which I think is a nice little 2025 addition to the agenda, that people can provide input, because it is very important that the community understands what the policies are, that they have input. So this is a great thing. So thank you for that. We have 35 seconds. Oh, Commissioner Green-Sherman.
This is just a quick question on acronyms. Thank you. I think it's incredibly important. That's why whenever I talk about OPCR, I always try to say Office of Police Conduct Review. It's not, intuitive. I would say that the policy and procedure manual is still behemoth, and I'm a little concerned about, and if I read it wrong, let me know, that there would be acronyms at the beginning of each section. I think that might add a lot of extra pages, and I'm just wondering if there is another way of referring to the list of acronyms, like acronyms in this particular section or by number, as opposed to listing them, just so that we're really careful about not adding to more pages of I think it's 700 pages, the MPD Police and Policy Review.
It is noted. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no other hands up, and we are out of time, I'll direct the clerk to receive and file that report. Thank you very much. The next report is from Community Engagement Committee. That report will be given by the committee chair, Commissioner Smith.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, can you hear me okay? Mm-hmm. We had a meeting with all our members present, I believe, and covered a lot of ground. The first item of business was for us to elect Commissioner Stewart as our Vice Chair of the Community Engagement Committee. So that was important. Secondly, we took up a discussion about the annual public hearing for the Commission. And we had a pretty wide-ranging discussion reflecting on last year's hearing, on options such as holding multiple hearings in multiple locations, north side, south side, various points around the city. I think we came to a consensus as a committee that the location, not in this building, but the newer, nicer public service building, is a very good central accessible location that has the equipment to televise in the city community resources. So the committee's recommendation is we have one hearing. We might later in the year find other outreach opportunities, but that we focus on one, that we come with a nice preparation of a concise statement of the role of CCPO and some reflection on our work and how we fit within the settlement agreement and consent decree, as well as our role in commenting on policy. There was some discussion about what resources can be present at that hearing, both within the city or other community resources, as often I think all have experiences in these settings of comments that reflect a wide variety of experiences, some traumatic, and how can there be resources in place within reason of what's available. Also, how can the resources of the city enterprise help support the communication and outreach to publicize this public hearing so that we have strong participation? And we also thought that, again, CCPO's role in the community safety infrastructure and our role in community oversight should be something that we can really help be clear about. The report suggests that I scheduled the hearing, but I want you to know that it was a committee discussion. And it is a recommendation to the full commission that we hold that hearing on Tuesday, May 13th at 6:30 p.m. It was based in part on looking at our general schedule and also knowing what is available for that room 100 in the public service center or building or whatever the new one is called. So that's our report about recommending a public hearing on May 13th at 6:30 p.m., a time when we thought people who have been working during the day can still get there at a reasonable time in the evening. We then took up some discussion about the policy review process. And we decided that, first of all, we would go to our March meeting to hold an opportunity for the public to comment on PPRR's work both in January and now your most recent February report, so that those policies and the committee's review of those policies can be put out for public comment as such for our next committee meeting, which I believe is March 18th. We also then got into this same discussion about the timeliness of the committee's review of policies and community engagement with that review. And I would say that it was reassuring to hear that there's a flexibility about whenever the commission offers comments, that those can be taken in. And we didn't, I don't think, we had a preview of this flyer that we'll discuss more in more detail. I would say we were kind of holding in tension the idea that it was great to have the flexibility to provide comments and know that they would be received and considered at any time. But we especially want to be relevant to the process of all the other actors through the settlement agreement and the consent decree. So we would like to keep coordinating, and I think there have been some discussions about prioritizing policies for review to make sure that the work we're doing is timely and relevant to the work of others. Then we agreed that we would hold that March 18th meeting for consideration of the policies that PPR reviewed in January and February. Then we noted that the city staff had prepared a draft communications plan for CCPO. And we wanted to see if we could get our hands on that draft plan and consider it as a committee at our March meeting, and bring that back then to the commission so that we can all be engaged in community outreach in a planful way. So we'll plan on bringing that forward after our March meeting. And with that, let me turn to my other committee members to see what other pieces I might be missing. I see Commissioner Green.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the recap. I have a couple questions. First, I love the idea of having the March 18th meeting, inviting the public to specifically comment on the policy. How do we get that out? How is that being given to the public, other than us saying this here and now? What are we doing to say to the public, at the particular PPRR meeting or the community engagement meeting, we're going to be focusing on this. If you have concerns about that, questions or ideas, how are we getting that out?
We spoke about having it on limbs. We spoke about bringing it to the next Alifa community meeting. We spoke about all of us sharing it on our social media platforms, and there was going to be a draft flyer possibly made that we could share.
The question I have is who's making up the draft flyer, who's making up the talking points so that they're consistent between the social media that we share and what we put on limbs. That is, so it's the nuts and bolts I'm talking about. How we don't want to be putting out separate versions of this. We want one kind of uniform thing. Is there staff that does that? Do we do it on our own? How does that get done?
Commissioner Stewart, did you have something else to add? Okay, what I'll say, it may be helpful if the city can help with the flyer when they notice for that Community Engagement Committee meeting on March 18th. Perhaps Commissioner Smith can help, and the committee can draft something to get it out, because it is important the committee knows, and then they can put it out, perhaps even on their TikTok. They have various reasons, ways to get information out to the public, which is helpful. So I think we can, as a committee, can work to get that information out in the normal channels the city has to get the information out about public meetings, but maybe just putting some additional information about the policies.
And the second thing I wanted to note is I did bring up Zen City at this particular community engagement meeting, and I don't see a word of it. Literally don't see the word Zen City in the notes. I find that frustrating. We talked about that. I brought to the attention of the committee whether or not that there was a contract passed for $500,000, and then afterwards we had the MDHR settlement agreement that has in it a specific paragraph that requires there to be a community survey. And the question that I've been being asked by the public is whether or not that $500,000 contract is being used to check off the box and say that we've got that covered. And so I know we're going to come up and get an answer to that, but I think we need to properly reflect this in the notes of our meeting. We had some very troubling public comment today about Zen City, and I will note today that I also learned, going to the Administration and Enterprise Oversight Committee, I heard the presentation from Zen City, and I had some serious concerns about the way that there is no community or public involvement in what they're doing. And although it didn't come out at the AEO meeting, I learned today that Zen City has now got a contract to do the survey at George Floyd Square. And I'm not sure how that got done. It wasn't public noticed, and I was told it didn't need to be. So there are some real concerns going on about Zen City, including the fact that what we heard today, that there is an Israeli surveillance company that have been involved in apartheid and genocide for decades, and we need to take what the public brings to us seriously. So I would appreciate if we could amend the community engagement notes to show that there was discussion on Zen City.
Commissioner Smith?
Madam Chair, I do agree with Commissioner Green Sherman that the question of this community survey came up in our context of our discussion at the end of the meeting about CCPO communications generally, and then how that fit with the settlement agreement. And I believe we had a commitment from the city attorney's office to at least answer that question. My thought would be that when we have our next committee meeting, we'll be reviewing the minutes or the summary, and we can make adjustments as appropriate to reflect that. But maybe there's also more news to offer here.
Thank you. I think it's appropriate because some of us were not at the meeting, so we're not sure what happened. So at your committee meeting, Commissioner Gurney Sherman can bring up what may be missing in the minutes, and then you guys can make a determination and bring that back.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Disappears. Go ahead.
No, thank you, Chair Reeves, Commissioner Gurney Sherman. Maybe give a little background context as well for folks. Sorry, Jamison Whiting, Assistant City Attorney, City Attorney's Office Implementation Unit. So a little background on Commissioner Gurney's question. It came up in relation to the community survey that is required under the settlement agreement. So we took a peek and looked back, and it's in a settlement agreement paragraph 415 specifically. And I can kind of give you a brief summary of that so y'all don't have to go ahead and look at it. And so it's specifically an independent evaluator requirement. And so that is not a requirement of the city itself to do that survey. So ALIFA, as the city's independent evaluator, is required to do a community-wide survey, an annual survey each year, both to the community broadly and internally within MPD. And so hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
It doesn't fully answer that, but I appreciate what you're saying. My reading of that paragraph is that it still doesn't answer the question about whether or not the $500,000 contract that was given to Zen City prior to the MDHR settlement agreement being effectuated is going to be used to check off the box for that. And what I learned today at the AEO meeting was very specific. The lawyer from Zen City said all of the data goes to MPD, all of it goes to ALIFA, and so that tells me that they are involved in that. And if they're involved in that, then that contract, that specific contract, must be being used to check off the box. And I will say one of the things that alarmed me is Councilmember Latricia Vital rightly pointed out what kind of measures are being used to protect the public from the data that they give, the information they give will be protected. And Zen City provided an answer for what they're doing, but I don't know what ALIF is doing. I don't know what MPD is doing. And in fact, they made it a point of saying MPD owns the rights to this. So that means they have the responsibility to make sure it's protected, and we heard nothing about that. And of course, we don't know at all what ALIF is doing when they get the information, how they're protecting it. So I'm just saying there's a lot of concerns around this, both in terms of public policy and just practicality.
Yeah, and Chair Reeves, Commissioner Gurrian-Sherman, to answer that question specifically, I think we're talking about two distinct sets of things. So there's the contract that you're speaking of that is with a contract with MPD and the city. This requirement, settlement agreement requirement within 415 is specifically with ALIFA. And so ALIFA is able to set up that survey, that community survey, however they see fit. I think Commissioner Shanfield gave a shout out for the ALIFA meeting on March 12th. I think that is a question that would be pertinent to ask there as well. But this is not a city requirement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just to follow up, though, it is a city contract that was made before ALIFA was even born. And my concern is that there is a mixing of apples and oranges, that we are using a city contract for Zen City to do, make the police department look good kind of surveys, and that is being used to check off the box. So when you pass it off and say it's ALIFA, it's a city contract that predated the settlement agreement. So we should be able to get an answer from especially the city's attorney's office about whether that contract is being used to pay for and implement a settlement agreement provision.
And Cherry, I think I can answer directly, no. So that this contract is specific to the city and MPD. ALIFA, as the independent evaluator, as stated in 415, has another process they have to do independent of the city.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson.
Thank you.
I'm just going to let the time expire. We have 8 seconds left, and I don't want to extend it.
Okay. Thank you.
We have one item of business that we do need to do, however, from this committee.
We do need to pass the motion for the public hearing on May 13th. And so, Commissioner Smith, if you would like to formally make the motion.
Yes, so moved.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, it's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Can it be repeated what date and time the meeting is set to be for on the 13th? I heard the location, but not the time.
6:30 p.m.
And then would we still have the traditional CCPO meeting in May as well? Or would that be replacing our meeting?
Separate. 2 meetings in May.
2 meetings in May. Got it.
Thank you.
Oh, good point. And maybe just for discussion's sake, can we add that then to our calendar? We need to update the calendar anyway, so that would be great if it can all be on there so we can think about what that cycle looks like further.
Yeah. Thank you. Commissioner Clerk Carl.
Commissioner Shanfield.
Aye.
Commissioner Clement.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith-Koiman.
Aye.
Commissioner Bastick.
Aye.
Commissioner Stewart.
Aye.
Commissioner Gurrian-Sherman.
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams-Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olson.
Aye.
Chair Reeves.
Yes.
There are 11 ayes.
Thank you. And so We now have a public hearing, May 13th, 6:30 p.m. at the Public Service Building. This is wonderful, and I hope the community comes and participates. We want to hear from you. All right. We'll ask the clerk to receive and file that report as well. So we are done with the reports on the agenda. The next order of business is unfinished business, and we have one item. We have an unfinished agenda item from last week, or last month, related to CCPO input on the police chief evaluation. I'll now invite Commissioner Barnett with the Office of Public Safety to give us an update on this matter. Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. I'm Todd Barnett, the Commissioner of Community Safety for the City of Minneapolis. I'm here to talk about CCPO's input into the Minneapolis Police Chief's evaluation. As you know, this commission, is an independent body that allows the public to participate in police oversight, and therefore this body has been given the authority to have input into the Minneapolis Police Chief's performance review. And this authority is derived from your bylaws, Article 9A5. I take your role in this process very seriously because your role in the performance review is essential to fostering a police department that is responsive to the community, accountable for its actions, and committed to ongoing improvement and reform. This builds trust, and it also gives me a diverse perspective. In addition to that, your input can help guide me in prioritizing the initiatives that benefit the community as well for all of the departments. We've met internally and discussed and are formulating a process in which I believe will become the norm for the police chief's performance review, annual review, I should say, as far as your role in having input into that. We're working to find the best mechanisms in which to obtain from each of you your perspective and input on the chief's review. Some of the areas that, and it's not an exhaustive list, but we're looking to have you have input on his overall performance, police reform, accountability, practices and policy implementation, also long-term planning and the vision long-term for the Minneapolis Police Department. It is my intention to have a final plan for this process reviewed by the City Attorney's Office, Civil Rights Department, and of course our Human Rights, and of course our Human Resource Department by the end of this month. So that is the update. Hopefully that was brief enough for you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions of Commissioner Barnett? Commissioner Green Sherman? I'm sorry?
I thought that somebody else had their hand up first.
Did someone down here, did I miss somebody? Oh.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Barnett. I appreciate that. I'm trying to figure out where this commission has a role in defining this plan that you're going to put out. It's, from what you're saying, it sounds like you're going to develop a plan and give it to us. I think we should be somehow involved in that plan. Can you discuss that?
Chair Reeves, Commissioner German Sherman, the way I read your bylaws is that you have input into the chief's overall evaluation, annual evaluation. It doesn't describe the actual way into doing that. That's why internally we've really discussed what's the best way to get the input, because this is a personnel issue. And I say personnel because it's not, his evaluation is not public. And so how do I get that information from each one of you, having that diverse perspective that complies with our HR rules and also meets the standards that the city attorney would have as well. So that's why we're coming up with the plan.
So can I just follow up on that? So
Yes.
your goal is to meet with each of us individually?
No, that's not. I said to get input, your individual input.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
And then I would just like to, I know you weren't here for the public comment, but somebody did bring up the evaluation of the chief in regards to the hiring decisions that the chief has made regarding Officer Timberlake, who was hired after he had used a hold that was similar to what murdered George Floyd. There was commentary about hiring a particular police officer, I believe it was Mr. Witherspoon, who was involved in the, sounds like, torturous death of Lucas Bellamy that resulted in a $3.4 million lawsuit. And then I believe there was one other. And one of the things that this person said, and I just want to get your feedback on this, is that the CCPO should have a public hearing separate from what we're doing May 13th, if I heard it right. Maybe they were saying that it should be part of May 13th or in the alternative. What do you think about having a public hearing that would allow people to come in and, speak to, once you have a plan laid out about what the plan is and what we should be commenting on? How do you think about having a public hearing on the chief's evaluation?
Chair, I'm not sure. You're saying that you would have a public hearing, and what would the purpose be?
To be nothing but go over getting the public's comment on whether they feel the chief has met or has not met standards for being recommended for recontracting.
Chair Reeves, Commissioner Sherman, the way that I read your role here is that this body represents the public. And so from my view, your input is the public's view. Citizens, residents, visitors, whoever, there are other channels for them to file complaints or give their views. And that happens quite frequently. So if you're asking me, I'm not the one to tell this body whether they have a public hearing or not, but I view each member as representing the public. That's the way I read your role.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bostic.
Thank you so much. I know you're still figuring out the process, and I'm just imagining something online where you are thinking through what those sort of categories of feedback are, which seems very organized and makes sense. And my only feedback would be that that we perhaps be given an opportunity before you finalize that process, maybe a little update at our next meeting, where, because you say you're hoping to actually finalize the process by the end of this month, I think it would be enormously helpful for this body to receive a list of the categories. Let's imagine an online form sent individually, and a list of the categories so we understand what we get to comment on. And I would really, 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 really recommend, as a process person, that at the very end that you give us a chance to have additional comments. And, maybe limit it, but that would be enormously helpful, just in case you don't hit all of the points, because we're all going to be interested maybe in different things. Thank you.
Chair, Commissioner Bostic, that my past experience with performance reviews have always included sort of any comments that you have. So I think that will definitely be in there as well.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith-Quayman.
Yeah, I just had two questions. One, do we know, and is it publicly available information, when the review process for the chief is happening? And then two, I just wanted to clarify that if this body were to discuss and vote on it, we could have a public hearing where people give their opinion of the chief's performance.
Say again your second question.
I just wanted to clarify that if this body decided to discuss and vote on it, we could decide to dedicate a hearing to hearing the public's feedback on Chief O'Hara's performance.
Your first question about the timeline, I pretty much have delayed the evaluation to make sure that this input is given. And so in trying to make sure that the process that, I'm sorry, Chair, Commissioner, is trying to make sure that the process that we have in place is one that would be the norm going forward for the future. So I'm just trying to be mindful of that, if that's helpful. And that's been sort of the delay here.
So just to clarify, there hasn't been like a date determined of when that is happening?
No, not exactly.
Okay. And then to the second question, just wanted the clarification.
On the public hearing?
Yes.
Whether or not
Just clarifying that from what you had said earlier, that if this body had, there's nothing stopping this body from discussing and voting
No,
on
I was saying that I don't feel like I have that I play a factor in whether or not this body has a public hearing or not.
Okay.
I think that's you have a city attorney to give you legal advice of whether or not that's possible. My only comment was just that I didn't feel like that was my place.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just add, when you know about the timeline or when we can give that information, that'd be very helpful as soon as possible so that we can start to generate that information. It'd be nice to hear from all individual commissioners about what they think, and it's a good time for everyone individually. I prefer that than having it come as a body of the commission that everyone can say what they want to say. So just add that real quick. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Could I just ask one, I guess it's a technical question. When is the chief's contract up? What is the last day?
I am so sorry. Chair.
And if you don't know it, could we just get it in an email or something? I'm curious.
I will have to find out. I think he signed a 4-year contract.
I do believe that, yes, that is public information that we can figure out.
Okay.
But thank you, Commissioner.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. We'll receive and file that report as well. Next up, we have new business, and we have 2 items. We have a presentation on the timeline for a policy feedback submission. We have 15 minutes for this item. Attached, you'll find a 1-pager outlining all the relevant timelines for a policy feedback as presented at the PPRR committee meeting in February. But I thought it would be useful to emphasize the timeline at this meeting. I know that we kind of did it already, but we can do a little bit more. And I'll now invite staff to introduce themselves and start that presentation. Thank you.
Good evening again, Chair Reeves, Commissioner Jamison Whiting, City Attorney's Office.
Samantha Pelini, also City Attorney's Office.
And a quick thanks. I know we spoke about it a bit at the Community Engagement Committee meeting, but a thank you to OPCR. We find actually who made it. So OPCR was the kind of entity and city department that made it. So thanks to them for that. We thought this would be an opportune time to speak directly, kind of to clear kind of confusion up specifically about the timeline process, the feedback process. And so with all of those that are out there, OPCR went ahead and drafted this document to put everything, compile everything into one place. And so kind of just giving you all a refresher and to note as well. So nothing on this kind of, I believe it's probably in the last page of your guys' documents. But none of this is new, so this is all, nothing has changed since these deadlines have been out there. So again, this is kind of just a refresher. I will pull it up here on my end. So I'll bring your attention to, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because I think bullet point number 2 is a bit easier. And so this specifically is the 45-day settlement agreement required deadline. And so MPD has a settlement agreement required, so that's within paragraphs 27 and 28. Deadline or timeline for community to solicit community feedback from the community broadly. And so what we have, and those are so for specific settlement agreement called out policies, and so those are, for your ease of use, kind of our mission, vision, and values and goals, our use of force, non-discriminatory policing and impartial policing, and our stop, searches, and arrests. And so that is kind of the policies in those buckets, in those large buckets that the settlement agreement calls out for that 45-day policy timeline. To move on to bullet point number 1. So then, as I think Commissioner Shanfield also noted as well, so thank you for that. It'll make it easier for us. For those policies that are not called out in the settlement agreement, so those that are not in those 4 large buckets, MPD, in the interest of accountability and transparency and understanding the advantage of community feedback, has opened that up broadly to all the policies that they're reviewing. And so if you look on the police website now, for the policy website, you'll see specific areas that don't touch these 4. And so they're kind of keeping that open to policies broadly. And so that is to speak specifically to the deadline, right? So they've picked 30 days so far has been the kind of the general use, but there is no specific deadline requirement that MPD has to follow in regards to those policies. They are doing so and have chosen to do so because of the advantage of seeking public input. And so those are, when you see the policies, are okay, well, why isn't this 45 days? They're probably policies that do not fit within those spots. And I'll pass it over to my colleague, Sam, for the rest.
All right, so Jameson touched on those first 2, which are feedback to MPD. The third and final feedback to MPD category is this last one, number 4, which is the anytime no deadline. So that's the one that's been referenced a couple of times today. And so this has been in emails to the community, emails to all of you, and it's essentially MPD saying, look, we really would love you to hit all these deadlines because that's when we can get it done right here, right now. But we're not going to just take this feedback and throw it to the wind if we don't get it within that timeline. So they're committed to, when you send them feedback, if they don't get it in time for this immediate review, as you may know, in the settlement agreement, there's a paragraph that talks about there's an annual review that's conducted on these policies that are continuously being reviewed over and over to make sure that feedback's brought in. And so MPD has committed, and their language was that they are committed to revisiting feedback at a later date to ensure all the voices are heard. Bottom line, that feedback is going to be read. It's going to be input, and it's going to be a part of that very next review that's done of the policy. So that is the anytime. So then the final one, category number 3, about the 120 days. So that's the separate one, right? So Jameson raised the first 2, and then mine was the third. That's about policy feedback to MPD. The fourth and final one is policy feedback, policy analysis and recommendations from this body to the public. So different audience happening there. And so that is about, as you know, you may know, your ordinance. And so that's talking about the 120 days from the time of the proposed change. Then you all have the opportunity, look at those policies, talk about it, analyze it, recommend it as you see fit, and turn that out to the public. So that is not a to MPD. We're going the other direction there. That's a to the public category from you all. So that's kind of what this graphic has been made. So again, our thanks to OPCR for putting this together for us, but that's kind of our hope that we can provide a little clarity on that for you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. All right, in light of that, I'd like to have a conversation about the CCPO calendar, because this is very helpful information regarding the timelines. Would commissioners be okay with that? Commissioner Green-Sherman.
Yes, I did have a few questions about the timeline. I think it's important to have what Commissioner Olson and Commissioner Scheinfeld said earlier about when I brought up that it's the state judge that actually passes off on this. Her name is nowhere seen on this in her authority. So I think it's incredibly important to be able to say that even if feedback comes in after some of these timelines, it will be considered, and how that is going to be considered. And I think it was really important what Commissioner Scheinfeld said, that the settlement agreement requires repeated review. I think we need to see that paragraph number. So I think that's really important. I think the thing for me that's kind of hard to grasp when I'm trying to talk to people about this is that the settlement agreement has a defined list of policies. Not every policy that's in the policy and procedure manual is covered by the settlement agreement. But conversely, almost every policy that is covered by the policy and procedure manual would be covered by the 120 days. So we have a purview that anything that's in the settlement agreement, we have to look at. So the 45 days, what it covers is also what the 120 days covers, right? So I think we need to make something that clear. I don't know where the word courtesy comes in, and I'm confused in number one. You know, what's an example of a courtesy policy that apparently doesn't have to come under either one of these that has been put out for review? Or another way of putting that is there an example of a policy that has been put out, that's been done as a courtesy, that doesn't fall under the 45 days, does not fall under the 120 days? I find this to be kind of confusing. And I think we need to kind of clarify. This word courtesy really jumps out at me. I don't see it anywhere in the settlement agreement. Maybe I've missed it, and I apologize if I have. So when you add something like that into the mix, and I can't find a definition for it, and then we don't have how all of this fits in with the routine regular review and the feedback and the timeline and the judge, I think we're painting an incomplete picture. To me, this is one page of what should be almost like a 3-page type of document. So I just want to say I think that needs to be added. I do get, and I'll use it again, this is like herding cats. It's not an easy concept to put this all together, but I think we need to herd a few more cats into this.
Would it be easier to answer the question, when you have policy review, at what point and how long does it take for the judge to get to it? Are we talking a month? What are we talking about? Because I think we keep hearing the timeline when the judge may see it, when people may put input in. You can come the next time if you missed the first time. Do you have an idea of how long that takes?
Yeah, so just so I can clarify a couple of things here, so catch me if I'm missing anything. So first of all, the judge is not signing off on every single policy that's coming in. That's not necessarily how the process is laid out. So on an annual review, MPD, or even right now, MPD's reviewing policies, right? And they're getting feedback on that. And they're talking to MDHR and they're talking to ALIFA, and they come up with this final policy. And then the policy goes into effect. So there's not a step where we're then also taking the MDHR feedback, the ALIFA feedback, the city people feedback, CCPO feedback, et cetera, and then we're going to the judge, and then we're saying, Judge, can we make this a policy? And the judge is saying yes, and then we're making a policy. The judge is primarily, so this is an assigned agreement between the parties that the judge is, for lack of a better term, babysitting, right? She is making sure that we're catching everything the way we need to be doing it, that when we're finding something compliant, the judge is reviewing if it is or is not compliant, but the judge is not involved in each minute piece that's going forward. And so when we're talking about these policies going from day to day or year to year, the judge is not reading every word of every policy and signing off and saying that every single policy the judge, find compliant. That's not necessarily how the process is working. And then sorry, go ahead.
Does ALIFA kind of have that role?
So and I'm happy to grab these paragraphs and give them to you guys as well. I know it's a lot of information, but yes, ALIFA is in the settlement agreement and in the hopefully forthcoming consent decree as well. Their role is, as it states in there, the approval role.
So essentially for the public, if ALIFA determines that MPD is not following a policy based on some recommendation, they can go to the judge and say they're not doing something. That would be Judge Jonas's role in this.
Sure, that's a great example.
Thank you.
I wanted to follow up on your second question as well, which was just to go back for a second to be clear. So this courtesy thing, that's coming from me, just to be fair. So what we're saying is the 45 calendar days is that hard line, right? That's where we're coming through from the settlement agreement saying you've got to have at least 45 days on XYZ categories. These have to be reviewed by the public in at least 45 days worth of time. They need to be able to review them. If that policy is not outlined in the settlement agreement as these must have 45 days, technically speaking, under the settlement agreement, MPD does not have to publicize them. They are nevertheless choosing to publicize all of them as a courtesy. So that's where I came up with that word. I'm happy to use a different word instead. But they're trying to get them out in the interest of transparency so that people can still give feedback even though they are not required to get feedback on those. And so right now that's primarily been like a 30-day block, but they would love to be able to have more, and hopefully in the future that's the case. But right now they're just trying to get them out to make sure, let's get feedback even though we're not mandated to, let's do it anyway. So that's where the less than 45 days courtesy is coming from. The 45 days is the hard line, and then the anytime/no deadline category, that is, please, anytime, send feedback on any policy. It's going to be reviewed and part of that process when that policy is brought up again. So,
Thank you. I saw a hand, Commissioner Shanfield.
Yes, thank you. Every time I see this or hear this, I understand it even deeper. Can you talk a little bit about like the room where it happens? So after, I remember you and Lieutenant Robinson talking about ALIFA and MPD and an implementation unit and city attorney, is that right? In the room together, sort of hashing it out. What happens then? What's the process by which it then becomes in action?
Yeah, so I think Lily actually highlighted it a little earlier, but it all starts with working meetings. I mean, these are MPD policies, so MPD gets to lead the train because this is what they have to do. They seek legal counsel from the city attorney's office. ALIFA has a couple different roles they can play. So the role that was referenced earlier today, technical assistance, that's really using ALIFA as, like, for example, subject matter experts to say, well, what is best practices in this city or this department or whatever it may be. And so they will give input there. And then the same thing with MDHR, also subject matter experts giving good assistance. So then there's a variety of different kinds of informal and formal, whatever you want to call them, working meetings where MPD is trying to get those policies going, get them into a final place. And when they think they got a solid draft, that's when they're publishing and they're saying, okay, now more, please give us feedback, let us figure this out. And then from there, that's where they're moving forward again, taking that feedback, incorporating it once again. I told Commissioner Bastick recently that she found a missing S, word was meant to be plural, and that's already in there. So, they're incorporating it right away, trying to get that feedback built in, and then it slowly but surely works its way to the final compliance submission process, which is also outlined in the settlement agreement, which is essentially the city sending to ALIFA saying, we have now a final draft based on everybody, all the city stakeholders, community stakeholders, city attorney's office, MPD, all these different people have looked at it. This is the draft we've got. Here you go. Final formal compliance submission. Please let us know if this is compliant. And then ALIFA does their final review and will determine their level of compliance from that. And they might come back and say, good to go, or they might say, not, you got a couple more.
Oh, that's really helpful. And that's annual. With ALIFA, that check is annual, the compliance submission?
That's all the time right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All the time.
Commissioner Olson?
That makes me think that, that makes me just wonder, though, then it makes most sense for us to be reviewing the policies that are red line or black lined, that are posted on the website as draft. Is that right?
Sure, yes, that would be great. I would prioritize, obviously, the 45-day hardline ones first, because those have hard deadlines and are the ones that are mandated under the settlement agreement. Yeah.
Okay. If we can get a motion to extend, just to get this in the calendar conversation, if someone would like to
I make a motion to extend for 5 minutes.
Is there a second? Second. All right. Discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Shanfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith-Coiman.
Yes.
Commissioner Bastick.
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart is absent. Commissioner Gurian-Sherman.
Yes.
Commissioner Canaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams-Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olson.
Yes.
Chair Reeves.
Yes.
There are 9 ayes.
Commissioner Olson.
I just want to make one observation. One observation, and please correct me if I'm getting it wrong, but the way I understand it, our policy review role in the ordinance predates the settlement agreement. That was devised before the settlement agreement happened, and in some senses, the settlement agreement supersedes whatever's in the ordinance. And given that, and you can tell me how accurate that is, but I just want to say our experience on this policy review committee has been really encouraging and enlightening because of the amount of interest everybody on the implementation team has been showing in hearing our input. I totally get the sense that the implementation team, whether it encompasses Alifa or everybody else, really wants to hear from the public and from us, and I get the sense that you're valuing our input, and I find that really encouraging, and I am, I'm happy with the process, and I thank you for your work on it.
Sorry about that. Just to answer your brief question, yes. So the settlement agreement came after the ordinance, but if you have more questions, we can talk about conflicts. I'm not identifying any right now, but what I'll point you to specifically is July 8th of 2024, Joel sent, Attorney Fussy, sent all of you an email going in heavy detail about how this works and how things are outlined and what takes precedent. But yes, you're exactly correct. And yes, we do value and read all of your feedback. MPD is very in tune with that. So,
thank you for.
So I just want to ask a clear question. Is it the position of the city attorney's office that the 120-day review in the CCP ordinance is no longer in effect because it's preempted by the 45 days in the settlement agreement?
Not at all. 120 days is fully in effect. And again, the 120 days is not about feedback to MPD. The 120 days is about the CCPO giving its review and analysis to the public. So that's not even, touched by.
So there's no preemption issue. The 120 days
No,
as written is in effect.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. 120 days is in effect. And again, that's about you guys speaking to the public as opposed to you guys providing feedback to MPD. So not touched by that, yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Bostic.
Attorney Fussy, I would love to see a copy of that memo that you just referenced. I think that would be super useful.
Yeah.
That was before my time, and we also have some other newer commissioners. I think that might be a great resend if you were able to do that, please.
I will do so, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sheffield.
Yes. I'm wondering, hopefully this will put to rest our confusion about the timelines. The 120 days, I think what is still confusing about that is from when. There's no start date. So the start date is every time the policy gets posted in draft form. But we don't know those dates ahead of time. We aren't able to calendar that out. So I think we just do it as regularly as we can, and we provide the public our feedback and welcome that at any time. I don't know that 120-day number needs to mean a whole lot to us going forward. I would be curious if anyone disagrees.
Commissioner Smith.
I'm trying to listen as carefully as I can, and I've read all of this stuff a million times, and I practiced law for 36 years. I'm still confused because, to me, the point of the ordinance is not simply for the commission to issue a report to the public. The point of that is for the public to know that the commission has reviewed policies and is contributing and engaging the public in their review so that MPD can consider them to be adopted ultimately. If all we're doing is sending a report out to the public and that's it, then we're not very relevant. So I'm hoping that in practice we have evolved to the point where we're fitting with the 45 days and we're showing the public how we are reviewing policies. We're engaging the public in that process. And over time, 120 days doesn't matter too much because we're on a really regular basis reviewing policies, doing the work as commission members to do that, providing opportunity for the public to engage with us at the committee level, refining our comments, and we see them get implemented or adopted or considered, and that's what really counts. Thank you.
I'll just say my apologies for being confusing. You have it spot So that, again, the 120 days, I'm just mentioning only because it's a number that's in there, and I just wanted to bring clarity to the number. But yeah, absolutely. Policy feedback is also a part of your role that's envisioned under your Section I, the commission may, and it goes through different kinds of powers you have, such as recommending processes, recommending policies. So that is absolutely a part of your role. The only reason I highlighted 120 on here, which perhaps I can do that differently next time, was just to clarify what the purpose of that specific number was. And that is to the public number as opposed to the MPD number, which we would advise would be the 45 days and the less than 45 days numbers, or any time, of course.
Thank you.
Go for it.
And quickly, Chair Reeves and Commissioner Smith, I think it also might be relevant for another resend of a memo. And specifically, I know we talked about this in the Community Engagement Committee of how does these policies stay relevant within the 45-day period. And I know this is probably coming up again around the calendar and process. And so I know Clerk Carl also sent out a memo specifically in relation to making sure that these policies and the recommendations you all put forward are relevant. And I'll leave that to you guys next discussion as well. And I think
Thank
that's
you.
on the agenda.
Could I just quickly add, I don't think you should apologize for using the word courtesy. I think it's useful. I think what we need to know is that it's not mandated by the 45 days, and it would be helpful to maybe put in a couple categories of policies that cover that. So I think giving examples would be very helpful, and just a quick definition of what that means. I don't have a problem at all with it.
Thank you. So we have expired time again, and I want to get to the calendar discussion. So if we can have a motion to do 5 minutes for the calendar, because we need to have a conversation about the calendar. Motion for 5 minutes, someone?
Second.
Thank you. Motion and second. Clerk, please call the roll on the, yes. I know he wants it officially on the record, but yes.
If you want to do a voice vote.
Voice vote.
How about everyone all at once?
Aye.
Yep.
Aye. Thank you. Appreciate you. Okay. So, so we're having this conversation about the calendar. I think it's important, a couple things. One thing that I would like the commissioners to consider is because we have a lot of conversation around the public hearing and having some time in the next month, that we on our April meeting, that we cancel the April 7th CCPO meeting, that we focus on the panels on that day. So that April 7th, I believe, is a Monday. I have my calendar in front of me. I believe it's a Monday, that we would do panels on that date, and then the committees would still meet. The community engagement and PPRR would still meet and do their business in preparation for the public hearing on May 13th, but that we cancel the April 7th meeting and just do panels. As you saw in the report, there are several panels that are up, coming due, and we can get those done because all commissioners will be available on that day for 2.5, 3 hours or whatever it is. And so we want everyone to be able the opportunity to get those panels done. So that's kind of what I would like to discuss quickly. Commissioner Nichelle.
I think we should. Okay. Because we just have a lot to do on our plate, and I think it would be better if we cancel the April 7th meeting so we can work on our panels, and that way, when it comes to the 13th, people come at us, we have information to give them.
So Commissioner Williams-Johnson, will you formally make the motion?
Yeah, I make the motion, or whatever you have to say.
The motion to cancel the April 7th meeting and have panels on that
motion
day.
to cancel the April 7th meeting.
Thank you. And I heard a second. Is there any further discussion for that? Commissioner Green-Sherman.
I appreciate the focus on the panels and getting to the cases. I oppose this. I think we should be able to walk and chew gum. We meet once a month. We are putting on this agenda 10 minutes to discuss the various parts of the agenda. We barely have time to squeeze that in. We are the only entity in the city that allows for public comment on the police oversight. And I think if we take that away from people and we take away the fact that we're keeping up with things, how are we going to convince people to join this commission if we cannot get the work done and also do it in a way that allows for us to review things thoroughly and do the review panels? I just find the notion, we canceled the December meeting to have a training. Now we're canceling the April meeting so that we can do review panels. I think it sets the absolute wrong message to the public. And if we can't do both of these things, then we need to think about an entire restructuring of what we're doing.
That's right. Any other? Commissioner Smith-Coiman.
I would just make the argument that, one, there is an entire restructuring that's happening. There's a new consent decree that is being implemented right now. And this committee is undergoing a lot of change at the moment. We're in the middle of an application session where a lot of things are happening. But then, two, disclaimer, my day job, I work around people who are on committees all the time. They cancel things in order to make time for other things. I don't think it's out of the norm for one meeting to get canceled to then do other necessary work that is backlogged, as we have had many discussions about. And so I support the motion if it allows people to get these review cases that are on the backlog out and information to the public that we can then share more effectively. Sometimes I'm in these meetings and like, what are we actually sharing out if we're not actually having the work done? And so, yeah, that's what I would say. There's a lot happening right now, and I think we need to give grace to the fact that this committee has undergone many changes in the, a little over a year that it's existed.
Sure. Any other discussion? Make sure I don't miss anybody. Okay. All right. Clerk, please call the roll on the motion for April 7th meeting to be canceled and panels to be done that day. Thank you.
Did we get a second?
We did get a second. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Shanfield.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith-Coiman.
Aye.
Commissioner Bastick.
Aye.
Commissioner Stewart is absent. Commissioner Gurian Sherman.
No.
Commissioner Canaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams-Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olson.
Yes.
Chair Reeves.
Yes.
There are 8 ayes and 1 nay.
Thank you. And Commissioner Shanfield, did you have something that you want to add in terms of the calendar? I just want to make sure, because we're talking about the policy and the dates. You had brought it up. Yep.
Thank you so much. I did just want to announce that we're going to be moving the PPRR meetings a week later than they are on the current calendar. Just wanted that to be people be aware. We'll get a new calendar and all of that. But I just thought didn't want that to sound like it had been done behind closed doors, because it didn't. Making sure that is out and available. And any of the PPRR committee members here, I'm hoping that we can get copies of the policies to review for that next meeting tonight. So don't leave before you.
Would you mind stating the date?
Could you tell us the date then? Because two of us are kind of confused.
Hold on just one second. Hold on just one
Madam
second.
Chair, I'm just going to
17th.
remind folks the
moment.
calendar was adopted by a vote. We don't just get to announce
Yeah.
that we're changing the date.
So we wouldn't take a vote on that, but I just want to make sure that if you could say the date that you were talking about moving it to.
Oh, I would love to know a little more about that, though. So how do we then set the dates for the committees?
There has to be a new calendar adopted by the whole body.
Yeah.
The calendar was adopted by the whole body. The whole body owns that calendar. Chairs of committees don't get to just change the dates of the meetings that were adopted by this body. So if you want to propose that you change either that individual meeting or you want to make a proposal for a different calendar, that has to come back to this body to be considered and approved.
Excellent. May I do that right now? May I make a motion to
Yes.
move the PPRR meetings? Because the timeline right now for us is too tight to get the stuff back to the next committee and to write the notes really quickly. So we had discussed that at our last meeting. I didn't understand that I had to make a formal motion here. So that's my motion.
Can you clarify the
I
motion?
second it.
One moment. Can you clarify the motion to say it's not the first Monday after the CCPO meeting, but the second Monday? If you could just clarify that so we know where we're going.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
The third Monday of the month.
Third Monday. Thank you.
okay.
And I heard, well, I'll just
I
say
know what
if
they're
we
gonna
can,
do.
because it's not always the first Monday of the month for meetings in the calendar. So can we clarify that you want the second week after the CCPO meeting?
2 weeks after
Just
the
because I
meeting,
think there's a couple meetings this year that are the second week. Okay. So 2 weeks after the CCPO meeting, she would like to do
Point
it.
of information,
Yes.
just very quickly, and it's directed to the city clerk's office. Is this something that we have to propose for a next agenda, or is that something that we can vote on tonight to move it?
It's on the agenda.
You can certainly do this tonight, but you've proposed moving the Policy Research Committee meeting to be at the same time that the Community Engagement Committee is now meeting. No, you said move PPRR back one more week. That's when they're set. Not always. There's a whole calendar. This is why this is difficult to do on the fly, is what I'm suggesting, is that there's a whole schedule for a whole year that we adopted, and it's not as easy as just we want to move that because we've got to find a room, we have to have the space, we have to provide the notice. So appreciate what you're saying. I think that if what you're trying to do is move this one time, that's fine, but this body needs to consider an entire calendar if what you're proposing to do is change the whole calendar. We also know that we're taking up January and February's comments that you're already done with at the Community Engagement Committee meeting, at their next meeting. So they are now staggered to always be behind you. So I don't think there is that pressure of turning around reports in a week to that group anymore, because they're already now 2 months behind where you're going. So your next meeting, they won't take up until a month from now. So I think there is, based on that work we've done, a staggered effect between them. If you want to change the meetings, we should think holistically about what that new calendar looks like.
So would you consider then, after hearing that, just doing one meeting and then having the calendar come up on the next meeting?
That's fine.
Would that be
That's fine.
helpful?
We need
So you guys can
at
discuss it?
least 2 weeks to review the policies, and we'll get them at the meeting. So we would like 2 weeks to review them. That's what we discussed. That's what we had discussed a month ago. So hopefully we will be able to bring that formally to the next meeting. But March 17th then is the motion that we'll have our next PPR meeting then.
So this a motion just for one meeting change, okay, for March 17th instead of March 10th? 10th, thank you. All right, so the motion is to change the March 10th PPRR work group, subcommittee group to March 17th.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
Second, okay.
It's been motion and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Commissioner Kennedy?
In case it matters to anybody, March 17th is St. Patrick's Day.
Oh.
Make sure everyone's aware.
No.
Yeah, okay. Commissioner Boston?
Quickly going back, just logistically, having understood that OPCR are the ones that actually put together the review panels, we voted to not have our April meeting and instead do panels, which I'm very supportive of. Are OPCR completely in the loop on this, and are they ready to really, really slam that out and get us all organized so that we can actually take advantage of that day?
I will say that now that we have a panel date for 3 hours potentially available and all the commissioners available, they will make it work.
Excellent.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right, so the motion on the floor is a motion and seconded. No further discussion. Clerk Carl, please call the roll.
Commissioner Shanfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith Coiman.
Aye.
Commissioner Bastick.
Aye.
Commissioner Gurian Sherman.
No.
Commissioner Canaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olson.
Aye.
Chair Reeves.
Yes.
There are 8 ayes and 1 nay.
Thank you very much. All right. So I ask the clerk to receive and file the previous report. And next, we have an update on the city's consent decree with the U.S. Department of Justice. I've allocated 10 minutes for this presentation, and here to provide the update is our city attorney. Well, I would ask, I'm looking like I don't see her, but please, welcome.
Hi, Assistant City Attorney Sam Puini again. Good to see you. It is not going to take me 10 minutes. There's not much to update. On February 18th, the Department of Justice asked for a 30-day stay. On February 19th, the court granted that stay, and that stay will expire on March 20th. So that is what I have for you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Not a question. I was trying to find out how you can keep track as a member of the public with this, and I was told it was through the PACER system. And I wonder if you could just explain that and how we, as individuals, can get signed up. I think you can get alerts about the cases, or at least you can put it in and find out if something's scheduled. My understanding, there are amicus briefs and there are 2 motions before the court. And so
Yes.
how do people keep informed about this?
That is a great question. So the PACER system is a website that attorneys who practice in the federal court use to put their documents on that the judge can look at, and then they can put their documents on. So it's a very archaic looking square box system that documents are filed on. I have to use a login, but I do think there is a community version. I don't know the exact way that works, but I know there's a lot of websites that just copy paste onto theirs that make it a public service. I will find out the answer. I don't know for sure how that works. Yeah.
I do believe there's public access. I do have public access to PACER.
Could you send that out to all the commissioners?
Yeah, I will find that because I'm not positive off the top of my head.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bostic.
Thank you. That would be great. But also, can we just ask? I'd like to ask. I don't need to make a motion. I'd just like to ask that the city attorney's office or the city clerk's office, I think the city attorney's office, just keep us up to speed, this whole body, and just send out, I read about this on Facebook or the Strip or somewhere, I can't remember where, or heard it on NPR, but really for something that is so critical to our work, we should absolutely get a little email. Dear Commissioners, it's been blah, 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 love, City Attorney's Office. Something really, really simple, just to keep us in the loop. We're all super busy running around, and I know that would just make it a lot easier for us, and it would feel very courteous, it would feel very inclusive. And I feel that, you've had to make a presentation, we're here, running pretty late, and we could have just got an email on this and saved an agenda item. I think that would just be super useful, if that would be possible. Thank you so much.
I do want to say, though, I want the public to hear that part about what happened with the judge. That's very, very important in the process. But I do get the point of Commissioner Bastick. Yeah,
Maybe both.
Any other? No. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'll direct the clerk to receive and file that date. Appreciate you. And with that, we've completed all items on our agenda for this meeting. Without any objection, the commission stands adjourned. And have a good evening, everyone. Our next meeting will be in May. 2 meetings in May, and that will be on the public website. But our public hearing is May 13th. Don't have the date on top of my head for the next May CCPO meeting. But 2 meetings in May. Thank you.
Thank you.